Hello to the wonderful Sparks Insight community. I know for so many of you, Social Security is the lifeline that keeps everything going. Paying the bills, covering rent, or just making sure there's food in the fridge. And with all the political drama coming out of Washington right now, it's completely understandable to feel a bit anxious about whether those checks will arrive on time. Today, we're going to cut through all that noise and get straight to the facts. Millions of Americans depend on Social Security, SSI, and SSDI payments every single month. These aren't just numbers on a statement, they are lifelines. The big question on everyone's mind is, with the federal government potentially running out of money, could October's payments be delayed? Let's unpack this together, because while the headlines are designed to be dramatic, the reality is much more reassuring. We've seen this movie before. The last major government shutdown was back in 2018 and 2019, and it dragged on for a record 35 days. I remember how worried millions of families were, wondering how they would survive. But even during that incredibly stressful time, one crucial thing happened. The Social Security checks kept coming. That single detail is the most important thing to remember right now. So, here's the current situation. The government's funding is set to expire at midnight on September 30th. If Congress can't agree on a new spending plan by then, the government will officially shut down on October 1st. This isn't just speculation, it's a hard deadline. When a shutdown happens, many federal agencies close their doors, non-essential workers are sent home without pay, and a lot of government services grind to a halt. What can Congress do to prevent this? They really have two paths. The first is to pass something called a continuing resolution. You can think of this as a temporary patch, a short-term extension that keeps the government funded at current levels and buys them more time, usually for a few weeks or months. The second option is to pass all 12 of the full-year funding bills. But let's be realistic. With the deadline so close, that's just not going to happen. So our best hope for avoiding a shutdown rests on a short-term deal. And this is where the political tug-of-war begins. On one side, you have Republicans pushing for a clean continuing resolution. That means no extra spending, no new programs, just a simple extension of the current 2024 funding levels until around November 20th. On the other side, Democrats are saying, not so fast. They see this as an opportunity to push for their priorities, like restoring certain Medicaid funds and securing new healthcare funding. As you can imagine, neither side wants to be the first to give in. This stalemate is why the government is once again teetering on the edge of a shutdown. This isn't just a hypothetical situation. We saw this exact dynamic play out just last week. The House managed to pass a short-term funding bill, but it was dead on arrival in the Senate. Democrats blocked it and countered with their own version that included the health care funding. Republicans, in turn, immediately rejected that. So, we're right back at square one. It feels like we're stuck in a loop, doesn't it? It's almost a carbon copy of what happened in 2018. Back then, the fight was over funding for a border wall. That disagreement led to the 35-day shutdown I mentioned earlier. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers missed paychecks, national parks closed, and essential services were impacted. Families across the country really suffered. But, and this is the part I really want you to hear, Social Security payments continued without a single interruption. Why? It's because Social Security operates under a special category called mandatory spending. This means its funding doesn't rely on the annual budget that Congress fights over every year. Instead, it's funded directly by its own dedicated trust funds. These funds are built up over decades from the payroll taxes that you and your employers contribute throughout your working lives. To put it simply, Social Security is financially insulated from these political battles in Washington. The Social Security Administration itself has a contingency plan ready for situations just like this. They have stated very clearly, and I quote, "We will continue activities critical to direct service operations and those needed to ensure accurate and timely payments of benefits." The translation is simple. Your checks will keep coming, even if the rest of the government shuts down. Now, does that mean a shutdown will have zero impact? Not exactly. While the payments themselves are safe, some other services might be affected. If you're trying to apply for new benefits, you might experience delays. It could become harder to get a customer service representative on the phone. And if you have an appeal or another administrative request pending, that process might slow down. So yes, there will be some frustrating slowdowns in service, but the money you count on will still be steady, on time, and in full. Let's address a common worry. What if this shutdown lasts for a month or even longer, like the one in 2018? Even in that worst-case scenario, your Social Security, SSI, and SSDI benefits would continue to be paid out as scheduled. There won't be any double payments later on to make up for missed ones, because there won't be any missed ones. The payment schedule you know will not change. Again, the only difference you might notice is a longer wait time for services, but the payments themselves are protected. So, the million-dollar question, will a shutdown actually happen? If history is any indication, lawmakers love to take these things right down to the wire. They'll argue, they'll make dramatic statements to the press, and they'll let the scary headlines run wild. Then, often at the very last minute, sometimes just hours before the deadline, they'll strike a deal. It's a stressful process, but time and time again, Social Security recipients have been shielded from the fallout. Let's zoom out for a moment and look at the bigger picture. What does all of this mean for you personally? It means that despite the chaotic news cycle, the financial lifeline you rely on is secure. Your October benefits are not going to disappear, they are not going to be delayed, and their amount will not be reduced because of political gridlock in Washington. The trust funds that back Social Security were designed specifically to ensure the checks keep coming, no matter what Congress does or doesn't do. Frankly, this constant political brinkmanship does more than just create news headlines. It creates a tremendous amount of unnecessary fear for millions of Americans who just want a little stability. Retirees, people living with disabilities, and low-income families shouldn't have to spend their days worrying if a political argument will impact their ability to pay for rent or groceries. And yet, every few years, here we are again. The good news in all of this is that knowledge is power. When you understand how Social Security is funded, you can cut through the panic and see the situation for what it is. And when you know the history, that even during the longest government shutdown in U.S. history, the payments never stopped. It gives you the perspective to stay calm. That's the key takeaway to hold on to. So, let's wrap this up. The shutdown deadline is September 30th. Democrats and Republicans are still at odds over health care funding versus a clean bill. But your Social Security, SSI, and SSDI benefits are protected as mandatory spending, paid out from their own secure trust funds. The outcome of this political fight will not stop your payments. Yes, some agency services might slow down, but your October check will arrive on time and in full. If you or someone you care about relies on Social Security, please take a deep breath and let this information bring you some peace of mind. Washington may be a mess, but your benefits are safe. Before we go, if you're new to our community and you appreciate getting clear, fact-based updates on the financial topics that matter to you, please hit that subscribe button. And to all of our longtime viewers, thank you so much for your trust and support. It truly means the world to us. Drop a comment below with your thoughts, and please share this video so we can help others find some peace of mind too. Stay calm, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next update.